As the Joe Flies.
And I'm Leslie from Trips with Tykes.
And welcome back to Disney Deciphered. All right, so spring break is upon us. Maybe you went to Six Flags, or maybe you didn't. Maybe you're at the Disney parks. Leslie, I was telling you the other day that I have a lot of clients booking last minute Disney trips, and wasn't as surprising as the fact that there's still availability at both Disney World and Disneyland to get in. Like, I booked someone 6 days before they traveled to Disney World. So it was pretty crazy. But with people booking these last minute trips, especially a couple to Disneyland, I realized we've never talked about Disneyland dining recommendations. I know it's not as big of a deal in Disneyland as it is in Disney World, but might as well get some recommendations out there into the ether. And of course, you, Leslie, are a resident Disneyland expert. So we're going to do that today. Before we get to that, I want to thank a new patron, Alice M. Thank you so much for your support. You can check us out on patreon.com/Disney Deciphered, where you'll receive bonus content. Leslie's going to Japan. I'm going to Disney World. As you are listening to this, we'll have bonus trip reports, and we're recording an unfiltered episode after this. So lots of good stuff there for you. All right, let's get to Disneyland food, Leslie. And let's start. I just feel like it is not as big of a deal as it is at Walt Disney World. I'm not sure if it's because of the festivals. I'm not sure if it's just because you're in LA. There's, Anaheim, but you're close enough to LA that you can like eat wherever you want. But it just doesn't feel like there's the same excitement and pressure to find the right dining as it is in Disney World. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it definitely is, I think, and due in part to there are great restaurants all over Southern California. Why do you need to go to Disneyland for that to be the destination? Also, probably due to the mix of visitors at Disneyland, there are a lot more locals. And so if you're buying a one-day ticket or you're an annual pass holder, you're not really coming and sitting down and splashing out for like a meal that's going to be several $100s. And, there's, of course, like the culture of the Instagrammable snacks, like way, way bigger in Disneyland than it is at Disney World, I'd say. So maybe it is about food, but it's just about a different kind of food. It's like not that many table service restaurants compared to what we're used to in Florida.
Well, we're here for the non-Instagram, influencer. If you are taking your family to Disneyland and you're going to need somewhere to eat and you want the best places and best value places to eat for your family, that's what we're going to talk about today. So the way we're going to break it down, we were talking about it and it was tough to do like quick service and table service. Like, so for Disney World, if you're looking for that, in episode 291, we did all the best table service restaurants at Disney World, or we recommended a bunch. In episode 302, we talked about a lot of quick service restaurants at Disney World. For Disneyland, just because it's not as big of a thing, we're just going to combine it all, and we're going to take 3 places to eat from Disneyland, Disney California Adventure, and then just Disneyland property in general, in the hotels, downtown Disney, et cetera, et cetera. So let's start with the park that started it all in 1955, Disneyland Resort. What do you think are like your 3 top picks? Or let's go one at a time. What are your picks for eating there?
All right. So the first pick is probably not going to be a surprise if you've listened to the podcast within the past year. Tiana's Palace in New Orleans Square, which was brand new earlier last year. And it's just excellent, 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 excellent. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Southerner and I like my Creole and all that kind of good stuff. As the name implies, this is Tiana's restaurant and the food is all Cajun, Creole, things like that. Southern too. So not all just like spice, if you don't really like that. So something to keep in mind. It's not perfect, but it's about as good as a quick service restaurant can get at Disney. And I did just double check the menu because Disney does have a habit of debuting a restaurant with a lot of options and then slowly but surely paring it down. And for the most part, the menu looks similar to the opening day menu, if not identical. I didn't do a complete line by line, but lots of different entree options, kids meals, great different flavors. This is a must eat. And I did take my family in our last visit after having been to the opening myself, and my husband absolutely adored it. This is kind of the place you can go if you want to pay counter service prices, but get more of a table service quality of meal.
Well, it's crazy. I have to always remind myself that Tiana's Palace is a quick service restaurant. Just the word palace just to me denotes something fancier, something where you're sitting down And so I was like, Leslie, please say whether it's quick service or table service so I don't have to embarrass myself and ask. I think this is definitely at the top of the list. I think just to bring it to the East Coast for a little bit, people are speculating that maybe, we say goodbye to Pecos Bills and that becomes Tiana's Palace. We shall see. But it seems like this has been a big hit all around. And it's crazy to think that a quick service restaurant is the first thing you'd recommend at Disneyland. But that's where we are. Now, I don't think we're moving like super far away. I think the next restaurant on your list is right nearby as well.
Yeah, again, probably not a surprise if you listen to the podcast. Blue Bayou is always going to be on my list. I know the food is not perfect there. It's very expensive. This is a table service restaurant. If you don't know Blue Bayou, I think most people know Blue Bayou. That's kind of a big name. Table service restaurant overlooking the boats of Pirates of the Caribbean as they cruise by. So you kind of have this evening dusk hour and lanterns overhead. You're not necessarily going there just for the food. You're going there for the entire atmosphere. I mean, this is the best atmosphere of any Disneyland restaurant that I can think of. And this has a special place, I guess, in my own personal Disneyland history. My husband and I had that as our date night for many, many years before we had kids. And then became our date night when we did have kids. We'd hire a babysitter and go out and eat there. So we've dined there more times than I can count. And the food is not tip top, but it's quality. You've got, your steaks and your gumbo and your shrimp and your fish, and it's not quite as Creole and Cajun as it used to be. It's more just sort of like fine signature dining, but you can still find those flavors if you enjoy them like I do.
Do you have any tips, since you've been there so many times, for getting closer to the water? Like, do you just have to ask to wait, or is it all like a crapshoot and they really don't prioritize anyone? Because I feel like, when we ate there, it was just myself and my 3 kids. We were seated close to the bathroom, which I guess was useful for my situation because it was just me and my 3 kids. But otherwise, I would have been like, the ambiance was nice, but I didn't really get to see I mean, you could kind of see the boats in the background because it's on the same, unlike the equivalent in Disney World, Sun on Hell, where you're like above the boats. It's more or less on the same level, so you can kind of see the boats in the background, but it was pretty different. So any tips there, or is it just kind of luck of the draw?
You really just need to ask. We usually do, and the wait often isn't that much longer because a lot of people just don't want to wait. And you're more likely to be able to do it if you're dining at an off time. So if you're very, very early into the lunch hour or the dinner hour, or very, very late, something like that, you're more likely to get the turnover that you want. But I dine on the rail more than 50% of the time. Like if I'm willing to wait an extra 10-15 minutes tops, then we've always been able to get it. So something to keep in mind. I guess the harder question is how to get the reservation, Joe, because this is one of those ones that goes immediately. You can be fastest finger, you can be an expert, and you're not going to have maybe even 50% success in getting this reservation. But the times that we have gotten it, we've either been lucky at that fastest finger 60 days out, or we've used something like mouse dining to try to snag a reservation. So this is one you have to work at a little bit. Or, there is the mobile walk-up wait list that you can do as well. So if you're willing to eat in an off time, then that can work as well.
One last thing about Blue Bayou, and before we leave this area, if you want the Monte Cristo and you don't want to wait for Blue Bayou, they have the same exact one at Cafe Orleans. I learned this by ordering it at Blue Bayou, forgetting that I had had it at Cafe Orleans the year before, and then being like, I feel like I've eaten this before. But yeah, little tip there. I mean, it's a lot of calories, but pretty good.
And then feeling your arteries clogged for the rest of the day.
Yeah, or your life, unfortunately, in my case. All right, so what's your third recommendation at Disneyland?
Okay, third recommendation is Rancho del Zocalo, and that is in Frontierland, right by where the entrance to Big Thunder Mountain is. And this is just an excellent, excellent Mexican restaurant. Again, like Tiana's Palace, it's a quick service, but it feels more like a table service in terms of the quality of the food and kind of just the atmosphere. So it's, you go through the quick service sort of buffet kind of thing, and you grab, everything from, enchiladas to burritos to street tacos. And then there is both shaded open air indoor seating and then outdoor seating as well. And it has a lot of seating. This is kind of a place where if your kids need a break and you need to sit for a while, that this is a good spot to be able to do that. And it's always an area that's very decorated depending upon the season. So when you've got Halloween time, they've got all of the Dia de los Muertos decorations in that area. So I love this spot. It's a great spot for people watching. And then again, the food is quite good as well.
Great to know. All right. Any honorable mentions before we move on to Disney's California Adventure?
All right, so this isn't really a full meal, but I am recommending Bingo Barbecue as a heavy snack, small meal kind of spot. This is a place in Adventureland right across from from Indiana Jones area. And it's got skewers, like beef skewers, chicken skewers, and even like a rice plate. So I love this. My husband and I have eaten at Bingo Barbecue for the better part of 2 decades, as you know, and it's cheap. Like you can get a skewer for like what, about $12, something like that, with a little bit of a side item. So it's a good deal. And you can get something that's not completely deep fried, maybe an occasional vegetable as well on the side.
Deep fry those vegetables for us. That would be great. No. Okay, let's move to California Adventure. Let me take your first thing on the list here, since this is where I've eaten like every time I've been at California Adventure, and that would be Pim's Test Kitchen. Again, our number one slot being taken up by a quick service restaurant, but this is in Avengers Campus. If you know the Ant-Man story, if you don't, it's basically Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but superhero version. And Pim's Test Kitchen not only is a lot of fun, you can get a gigantic pretzel, and then they give you like a tiny, like Snyder's of Hanover pretzel with it to do the big and small. At breakfast, you can get you get a big egg, and then you get a tiny egg as well. They have a lot of fun with the presentation, which is part of it, but just the food is good. That's like been our experience. Like the food is just really good. I mean, it's cute if you can make your food, like again, for Instagram, it's great to take the pictures of this food, but if it doesn't taste good, it's not as big of a deal. I think I've been to Pim's 4 times in 2 trips. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Lunch and dinner are the same menu, but the food is just solid. That is my go-to recommendation in California Adventure as well, especially because, you know, when I'm in Disneyland, I'm not there as much, so I want time for rides and less time eating.
Exactly. This is why I've eaten there a lot in the last couple of years myself as well. I often eat there for like a late breakfast. There are not a lot of places in DCA that are open for breakfast. So I'll get in, 3, 4, 5 rides, and then it's still the breakfast hour. And I dash over there right before the breakfast hour ends, grab something with a little bit of protein, like those 2 eggs that you talked about, the 2 different size eggs. And you can, of course, being a quick service restaurant, also order a kids meal. So sometimes I order the kids meal breakfast just for like a little taste. It's very inexpensive, but the food is very quality. I, especially for lunch, love the chicken sandwich, which has a big chicken patty, like fried chicken patty, and then a tiny little bun, which is quite cute. And then they have kid versions that don't have toppings on them. And this is one that everybody in my family, including the picky eaters, and then including my husband, who maybe wants something with a little more flavor, everybody in my family can eat there.
Atkins friendly, Leslie, just dating ourselves with the diets that we heard about growing up. The other thing that we should mention for all the quick service restaurants we've been talking about, mobile order at Disneyland works great. Again, to save time, like while waiting during the Web Slingers pre-show, make my Pim's Test Kitchen order. As I'm getting off the ride, say that I'm here, walk over to Pim's, pick up the food, and we're good to go. All right, next restaurant, Leslie, I'll let you take this, although I've been here twice as well. Maybe the problem is I just took all of your recommendations. Maybe that's the issue here.
I think that's right, Joe. I think the reason you've eaten these places is because I told you they were good. But the next pick for me is Lamplight Lounge. This is the best table service restaurant in DCA. And it's not the fanciest table service restaurant in DCA. I mean, that goes to Carthay Circle for sure. But for the value, for the atmosphere, for just the experience, Lamplight Lounge, as it sounds like, is Pixar themed. It's along right when you cross over the bridge into Pixar Pier. It's the old Ariel's Grotto, if you remember back in the day when there used to be character dining in DCA. And it has open air seating, outdoor, and that's covered, and then sort of indoor as well, that's usually open. And then you can see the Incredicoaster going by. You can see the whole pier, the Pixar Pal around. So you've got great views, and Very popular here, brunch on weekends. This is a hard to get reservation. A lot of locals want to do that. And again, locals aren't really doing the table service restaurants quite as much, but they are doing Lamplight Lounge because again, it's not like crazy, crazy expensive like a couple of the other ones that we have on this list, like Blue Bayou. Because you can go there, have drinks, like have kind of like appetizer plate, something like that, and not spend a fortune. The must-have pick is the lobster nachos. That is the thing that everybody wants to eat there, and because it goes back to the previous Cove Bar days where that used to be in the area as well. So that's my pick, but you could also just get like the classic, burger for your kid too.
Slight caveat to this one, and caveat to my caveat is that we had just gotten off a plane from Australia, so we were super jet lagged. But when we ate there, we ate on like a low table with couches outside under the covering right in front of the Incredicoaster. It would be amazing with adults, an amazing place to sit with adults. But with my kids, they were like lying on they were like passing out on the couch, and the food was, my kids aren't like as burger friendly as most kids might be, and so we had a little bit of trouble finding stuff for them to eat. So that's a little caveat there with kids. Like when I went with my oldest daughter when she was 9 or 10 and it was just the two of us, it was great. But when it was like my whole family, my wife was there, the 3 kids, the younger kids had a little bit more trouble finding stuff to eat. And then those couches, again, would have been great. If you and I, Leslie, and some Disney Decipher listeners were hanging out there, that would have been like the perfect place to eat. But like with the kids, they're just like kind of, you need nice solid seats so that the kids don't move, to minimize the movement of the kids. The other thing I'll say is aforementioned influencers taught me, Leslie, that every once in a while you get lucky and there's this like secret room in the back that you're like on this like little dock. I don't think you can ask for it. You just like every once in a while they open that up. Anyway, thanks influencers. I don't remember which one of you it was, but there you go.
All right. Every couple of years it gets discovered again. Like, look what I found. It's like, no, it's been there. we've seen it before.
Well, Leslie, you didn't tell me about it, so I didn't even know to ask for that. Okay, all right. What's your third restaurant?
All right, third pick might be a little bit of a surprise if you haven't been to Disneyland lately, but I'm picking Lucky Fortune Cookery, which is in the new San Francisco Square. And this used to just kind of be like, forgettable Asian food, but with the renovation of San Francisco Square, the menu has been redone, and the menu of a lot of these restaurants in the entire area has been redone. So now it's really kind of a destination for Asian food. So it's Chinese, it's Japanese, it's Korean, several different items on the menu from all different flavors. Like this is the place you want to go if it's not Lunar New Year and you want Lunar New Year food, because it's really excellent. And I love the value that it provides. Like they have a kids meal teriyaki chicken bowl that I think is like $7.99. It's super cheap. So again, if I only need like a snack to get me through like a few hours and don't want to spend a ton of money, then I can go grab a kids meal there and have, again, vegetables and a little bit of protein and not like all, save that room for the churro later. So I think this is a great pick. And I think it's flying under the radar a little bit for a lot of people because it's been there forever. So people kind of have forgotten about it and haven't gone back and revisited it. Also has a great Baymax macaron that's super, super cute that I think is, again, we'll throw in a one Instagram mobile treat, Joe.
Of course. Yeah, I was going to actually bring San Francisco Square up as like an underrated place to eat when it was Pacific Wharf, just because there are so many options and it's a really great place to sit. It's great to hear that the food is catching up with the location as well. All right, your bonus pick for DCA. I love this pick. Go ahead and hit us with it, Leslie.
All right, bonus pick, not quite a full restaurant, but definitely worth stopping here to eat. Cozy Cove Motel in Carsland. There's a little section along Route 66 in between Mater's Junkyard Jamboree before you get down to Radiator Springs Racers, where there are 4 orange traffic cones, each one a small restaurant in its own right. And you can get different items there, like one is ice cream, another one is chili cone queso. There's also little seasonal items there, pop cone, pop. I can't even do it. Like the puns are ridiculous, but the food is excellent. You can do just a quick little mobile order, dash up, grab a treat. There are a couple of tables there, not quite enough tables there, so that's something to keep in mind. So I usually try to snag one, like let somebody in the family snag one while the other person stands in line for pickup. So definitely for a quick bite, make some time to head here to Carsland.
Leslie, I discovered this one on my own. Okay, I was just looking through the
Okay.
menus in line at an app. It was 8:40. Cozy Cone Motel was closing at like 9, and we hadn't, you know how it goes at Disney parks. You promise your kids ice cream all day, and then it gets late, and then you're like, oh shoot, we need to leave. Where's our ice cream? And so I was looking through, saw the mobile order, got the soft serve for most of the kids, got a churro for the kid who is dairy allergic, mobile ordered everything. It was ready in 5 minutes. We ate it walking out of the park. Perfection. Amazing. Loved it.
Wonderful, Joe. I'm glad the impromptu snag worked out.
Hashtag parenting. All right, Leslie. Now, throughout the rest of the property, it's not Disney World. You're not like in a city, right? You're not really traveling. You have Downtown Disney, Grand Californian, Disneyland Hotel, Pixar Place. That's it. Give us 3 options for where we can eat when we're outside of the parks, don't have a park ticket.
All right. So number 1 pick, Napa Rose in the Grand Californian. This might be, I'll say it, this is the best restaurant on Disneyland property. And as the name suggests, this is wine country, fine dining, and it is priced accordingly. I just took a peek at the menu. The entrees start at $60 and up. So this is going to cost you a pretty penny. This is not a place you want to take little kids. You want to savor this for a special date night for adults. I mean, I guess unless you have really foodie kids, but still that seems wasted on them. The atmosphere is very relaxing, and this is something that you can do in a non-park day. So if you're flying in during the day, have dinner here, and then don't waste your park time, and then, of course, go into the parks on other days. There also is a character meal at Napa Rose, the Princess Breakfast Adventure, and it's very expensive, $125 per person, no discount for kids. So if you want like the uber luxurious character dining experience with the princesses, it's a very long experience. It takes about 2 to 2.5 hours to get through the entire experience, but this is very popular for, like birthdays for little kids.
135, actually, Leslie.
Ooh,
I just
did it
pulled
go
up.
up?
I
Did it
guess
go
it's gone up. Yeah, and I will say, I think this is a harder ticket than Blue Bayou, like on average, just because it's only breakfast and there are less slots and because it takes so long. So yeah, that Napa Rose Princess Breakfast. I debated taking my kids to it again. So for those of you who didn't follow along last year, my wife, like all 5 of us were there at Disneyland for one day, and then my wife left and I was there with the kids for the next 2. And I debated doing it with the 4 of them, and I was like, you know what? I am not going to spend over $600 when 75% of us who are eating there do not care. I will wait till, maybe I'm just there with my youngest daughter, and then I'll consider doing it. I did snag a reservation though, skills.
Yeah, skills. I mean, that's the hard part about this restaurant. If you only have one kid who is in their princess phase, but you've got, older, younger kids who don't care, things like that, or just, don't care about princesses, period, it's really hard to justify taking the entire family there. And that's why we haven't done it as a family. I mean, my kids are now sort of beyond the age of that, but even still, my son would not have appreciated it even when my daughter was younger.
All right. Next pick, Disneyland Hotel Tangaroa Terrace. It is a quick service restaurant. It's basically Captain Cook's West, the Polynesian Captain Cook's. Not exactly, right? It doesn't have the exact same menu, but the same feel. You are in the Polynesian type area of Disneyland Hotel, kind of near Trader Sam's or Trader Sam's adjacent and stuff like that. A lot of good food there. When we stayed at the Disneyland Hotel, we had a couple of meals there, Asian inspired meals, Western meals, lots of great stuff there. So I think that's a great option. And it gives you a chance also to visit the Disneyland Hotel if you're not staying there, and people going crazy on the monorail slides, newly refurbished and all of that. And then the last restaurant you have on our outside of the parks list, Leslie, I haven't heard of, so tell me about this one.
Black Tap, it is kind of a high-end diner that is famous for its crazy shakes. So it has these giant milkshakes that are often topped by something ridiculous like a slice of cake or a donut or a chocolate chip cookie. But these are like these shakes are more calories, than you should have, the
My
single person should
arteries
have
are
in a day.
between this and the Monte Cristo, my arteries have thickened just talking about this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the appeal is definitely the Instagram crowd because the shakes are quite beautiful, but they're actually really good. And I think the food at the restaurant is quite good too. So you can get really nice like burgers, I mean, it's burgers and fries, but it's like a nice diner and very filling, fun atmosphere. Can be quite the line, but sometimes the line looks long, but it moves pretty quickly. So that's something to keep in mind. But if you can eat kind of a little bit off, even just like a little bit early for lunch or a little bit early for dinner, then you can miss most of it. And then if you don't want to like sit down, they do have a window where you can just go up and order the shakes only and walk as you go. So occasionally I'll do that if I need a treat on the way back to Disneyland Hotel or something like that. It's an easy grab, very good and a lot of fun.
I'll give a quick shout out to Storytellers Cafe in the Grand Californian. It is pretty standard buffet food, but character breakfast in the morning. And if Disneyland is kind of your one Disney trip period or your one Disney trip in a long time and you want to get that character meal, do the characters, get it out of the way. Characters are not, it's just not the same at Disneyland. It's a little bit less reliable since you can't necessarily wait for them or know when they're going to be showing up. So go to Storytellers Cafe for breakfast, solid food, and there are characters around. We actually we might have gone for 2 meals. Like we might have gone for dinner as well, just to go. And the food is solid at dinner as well. Not the greatest, you're not going to feel like you're getting a deal out of it, but you do get some characters and, the food is good. So small shout out for that one. And what do you have for your kind of bonus for outside the parks?
All right, bonus is Earl of Sandwich. This is such a popular restaurant at Disneyland. It closed when they started destroying the end of downtown Disney near the Disneyland Hotel for all of these new renovations. There was an uproar. And then when a space opened up, La Brea closed, they reopened Earl of Sandwich there. And they're actually now currently building a new location for Earl of Sandwich, 2-story location. It's just like hot sandwiches. I actually don't think that I can remember that I've ever eaten there, but it is incredibly popular among the local crowd. And so I'm looking forward to it coming back in a bigger and better location. And maybe I'll finally go get a sandwich and see what all the fuss is about. So stay tuned. But this is something that folks should keep in mind. Downtown Disney is under massive construction right now. We're about to get a whole bunch of new restaurants in the somewhat foreseeable future, but no dates announced. So this is going to change. The dining situation is going to change at Disneyland, and there's some great restaurants coming. Din Tai Fung, I'm excited about that. Lots of good stuff.
Bring back Blimpie, you cowards. This is not to Disney. This is to all of America. Google that. Google what happened to Blimpie if you're curious. One last shout out, just because a lot of people have been telling me to try it. Carthay Circle. I know it's not your favorite, Leslie, but at California Adventure, people have enjoyed their experiences there that I've talked to over the last year or so. All right, that does it for our Disneyland dining recommendations. Thanks so much, Leslie, for sharing your knowledge with us. If you have Disneyland dining recommendations, if you have things that you think that we should check out, let us know. DisneyDeciphered@gmail.com, at WWDeciphered on Twitter or on Instagram, Disney Deciphered. We always want to end with a Disney do or don't. So, Leslie, do you have a Disneyland dining do or don't to end us with?
I do, and this might make you laugh, Joe. This might make other people laugh. Do go to Galactic Grill, but don't most of the time. Do go to Galactic Grill for breakfast because they have an amazing breakfast burrito. Amazing breakfast burrito. Huge, big enough for 2 people to share, but I rarely share it. It's $10.99 filled with like hash browns and bacon and sausage and eggs, and it's so good. Hat tip, by the way, to Mindy of This Fairy Tale Life, who is a friend of mine, a Disneyland blogger, who clued me into this several years ago when she texted me while she was driving to Disneyland and said, get me a burrito. I'm not going to make it in time. And I carried a burrito around in my purse for her for like 2 hours until she arrived at Disneyland. And it was that good. I got one for myself. I was like, I see why you want me to carry this around in my purse for you for 2 hours. So excellent breakfast option in Disneyland Park.
Leslie, I now know that the true test of my friendship with you is to get you to carry a burrito in your purse for me. So next time we're at the parks together, maybe it'll be a Ronto wrap. Maybe it'll be this Galactic Grill. That's like the Cosmic Rays equivalent.
It's
in
awful.
Disneyland. Yeah,
it's awful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really funny, but that's a great tip. Well, if you have any other tips like that, let us know at all those places we said. Leslie, of course, has a lot of great Disneyland content on her blog. So, Leslie, why don't you tell us where people can find you on the internet?
Yes, I am at tripswithtykes.com, at tripswithtykes everywhere on social media. Where can folks find you, Joe?
You can find me at AsJoeFlies all over social media if you are planning a last-minute spring break trip or a future trip in 2025. Joseph Chung at travelmation.net. I would love to help you out. All right, Leslie, this was a lot of fun. I love talking about dining. And so, again, one more time, thank you for sharing your expertise. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And other than that, Leslie, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And I will see you working out, because we got to work out all these calories for the arteries we just clogged talking about this.
Thanks, Joe.